Hello everyone, my name is Dusk and welcome to another episode of Talon's Guide. In this guide we're going to go over the overview and the basics of the Barbarian hero. The Barbarian is basically my favorite hero in Diablo 2. It's a very tanky, melee based hero that depends on getting in your face and just doing a lot of damage. They have a lot of health and they do a lot of damage, and they do have a gap closer that, such as Leap, where they allow themselves to get closer to a ranged enemy that tries to kite them, like an Amazon, for example. Now in Diablo 3, the Barbarian has changed a bit. Almost all of its skills are actually new, and so we're just going to look at how the hero plays, basically. So in Diablo 3, I think Blizzard strived to actually create a new system that isn't mana reliant, and so basically mana is only left for a hero such as a sorceress, and it kind of makes sense. So in Diablo 3, heroes such as the Barbarian uses a system called Fury, and so what you have is basically three primary skills that you use, and you get one of those skills at level 1, Bash being one of them, where you just have three skills that all do some kind of effect, and they all do bonus damage, above 100% weapon damage, basically. And these skills, every time you use them, help you generate Fury. Now, in addition, there's a few more active skills that can use that you also generate Fury with, but they have longer cooldowns, and they're more of a tactical kind of skill, whereas these primary skills basically have no cooldown, and you spam them as much as possible, and they're always going to be better than just your basic attack. Now, these skills, whenever you use them, generate Fury, but there's three of them, and they basically give you you want to use different ones in different situations. So there's one that does a lot more damage to one unit, there's one that cleaves, and etc, etc. Now, with this Fury, you can see the Fury bar on the right, and the Fury bar basically goes up every time you use these primary skills or one of your tactical active slot skills that you may or may not have. Now, you're going to be getting most of your Fury from your primary skills, so we'll just focus on that for a little bit. What you use Fury for is, there are some tactical skills, such as your active skill number 4, that uses a lot of Fury and just gives you massive buffs. Now, these buffs help you in melee combat or other forms of combat, but they just give you buffs and they help you cast your abilities, basically. It's the Barbarian's mana, if you will. And so what you're mostly going to be spending your Fury on is the secondary slot, and the secondary slot is going to be special abilities that basically give you something like a splash or a cleave or just more powerful Barbarian abilities. And so you can see that I'm using Hammer of the Ancients in this clip, and that gives me a massive splash damage. Now, I also have a splash or a cleave attack that gives me splash damage as well, but that's in my primary slot, and so Hammer of the Ancients is kind of like a special attack that gives me slightly more splash damage. What I've learned is that I like to put a single target attack on one of them and a splash target on the other, so I have both sides covered in case I get mobbed by one really strong enemy or by a group of larger enemies. And so the playstyle of the Barbarian is, it's going to be based on generating your Fury and keeping your Fury constantly up. And so that's one of the differences compared to another melee character such as the Monk. The Barbarian requires you to basically keep your Fury up in order to put out constant damage. Now, I'm not saying that without Fury, Barbarian can't do damage. No, that's not true. But in order for Barbarian to maximize his time and maximize his damage, he really needs that Fury bar up. Now, compared to the Monk, for example, which is another strong melee character, the Monk can keep his Spirit and just use it all at once, putting out high burst damage, and then run away, go back, or tactical retreat, let his Spirit regenerate. Whereas the Barbarian really needs to keep his Fury up at all times, be in combat at all times, and keep that up so he can output damage. When the Barbarian is out of combat, his Fury bar slowly decreases, and so if you ever want to use any Furious abilities, that's one of the reasons why you have to stay in combat constantly. Now, he does have a passive that prevents that completely, and it gives him actually passive Fury regeneration, so he's always going to have 100% Fury when he goes into battle, which is nice, but you're also taking a passive slot, and there are some better ones. Compared to the other characters, the Barbarian really has the most wide array of weapons he can use. The Barbarian, in addition to the Monk, they can both hold two one-handed weapons, which is really great for getting that fast attack speed in, and also helps generate Fury with one of his level 11 skills called Frenzy. Now, because the Barbarian has a wide array of weapons, you're basically able to pick up and use as many of the weapons as possible, which really helps a lot. Additionally, he can also use the bigger two-handed weapons that have a really long range, and that really also helps his basic attacks. If you guys like playing a pretty badass, tanky, high damage dealing melee character that gets in your face and his attacks are so powerful, it knocks enemies away and blows their bodies to pieces. Feel free to go check out the Barbarian. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the section below. Otherwise, my name is Dusk, and I will see you guys later.